When you want to build an awesome electronics project you found for example on Instructables, then you will need some basic tools and materials to make that happen. And when you want to be creative on your own and you want to combine some parts to a new great project, then you will need some more advanced tools to make that happen. So in this video I will present you my favorite tools and materials to get the job done. Let's get started. First of all, you can buy most of the materials and tools in my Amazon store, one for Germany and one for the US. If you do so, you support my channel because I get a small percentage of the price. That doesn't mean you pay more, it is still the same, I just get a small commission. Or you can be super generous and helpful by using the two links in the description as your Amazon homepage. Again, I get a small commission of what you buy. And don't be scared, I cannot see what you buy. But it really helps to buy parts for new projects. But that is enough of this horrible advertisement. Let's start with the most important basic tool, the soldering station. And I'm not talking about those soldering irons you plug directly into mains power. Those are fine for a quick solder job, but for longer sessions I recommend a station. And it doesn't need to cost awfully much, because in the end it is just a metal stick that gets hot. Mine was only 50 bucks, works since 2.5 years without a problem, and it can heat up to 450 degrees Celsius, which is useful for thick wires. But 350 degrees is a good temperature when working with PCBs. And get a sponge, just because this sound is a pleasure to hear. Next is the multimeter. I recommend to not get an absolute cheapie for 10 to 20 bucks. Because you will regret it. My Unity UT61D has decent accuracy and does everything you need for only 50 bucks. Check voltage, measure current, and so on. And if you think that is too expensive, then check out this Tech. It's all you need for a beginner and even has jacks that light up, so you can't mess up the probe insertion. Next is a small diagonal cutter. This guy is essential for cutting small wires, thicker wires, pins of your parts, and I also use it on thin wire to strip the isolation. The cool thing about this Knipex Super Knips, by the way I love that name, is that the cutting part is magnetic. This way your cutted pins don't fall down, they stick to it, which is neat. And I know it is a bit expensive, but it is worth it. Made in Germany on tools really means quality. Needle nose pliers are also essential. Mine is from Toolcraft, but the next one will be from Knipex. It is like a heat resistant extension of two fingers to insert parts, bend pins or hold wires while soldering. And here's a cool little trick. Place your bridge wire all the way at the base and bend it. Like this it will always jump across two holes of your PCB. Next is an automatic wire stripper by Yokari. I can't strip the really thin wire, but for all the other types I always use this guy. Because when you try to strip the isolation with your cutter, then it can destroy the cooper. And that means higher resistance and a weak point. I used this Chinese cheapie before and I do not recommend it. A friend of mine got this one too and it broke on the second day. It is a waste of money. Next is something truly simple, screwdrivers. There is nothing big to say about those. I recommend the company Viha. I used those for 2 years and never had problems. And when you want to use them on high voltage, then better use those which are tested for the purpose. For soldering you will also need, solder. Simple enough. I used this kind for quite a while and it works just fine. I only recommend to use a small diameter because it is more precise and easier to work with small parts. Next one is wire, and those wires with alligator clips or these male jumper wires are really useful for prototyping projects. But I also have a rather bigger assortment of different wire types for finished projects. I like to use this really thin flexible wire for low current projects and all kinds of thicker solid or flexible wire for higher current projects. It's always nice to have the choice of some different kinds. Okay, time for the advanced section for more complicated projects. First of all, get a lab bench power supply. It is so helpful to have a variable one right on the workbench to test circuits and see whether it draws current correctly or is a short circuit. And even when you don't want to invest a lot of money into this, you can always build one from an old ATX power supply and use a small circuit to step down or step up the voltage. Moving on to case construction tools. My rotary tool from Proxon is just super useful to cut all kinds of materials and to grind those materials. With the correct drill stand, you can even use it to drill holes in your newly made PCB. And I'm happily using this product for about a year. If you need to use screws to secure your materials, it is helpful to have a drill. This is actually the drill from a friend of mine, which I always borrow. But those DeWalt drills are durable and withstand much abuse. I will buy my own one soon with a nice bit set like this one from Bosch, which works fine since 3 years, I think. Next is a hot glue gun. Some people say it is just cheap and horrible. Well, yeah, it is cheap, but it works like a charm every time. I highly recommend it and it only costs 20 bucks, so even if you go wrong, it wasn't that expensive. Last but not least, for case construction is a set of files. I use really small ones because it is mostly not a heavy duty job. And I highly recommend rubber handles. It is just much better than wood. And the last equipment tool on my list is an oscilloscope. I know it is expensive and I only recently got my own DSO. But being able to see the different voltage levels and patterns in a circuit is kind of mandatory when you want to make your own circuits. These were my favorite tools and materials. What are yours? And what brand do you recommend? Tell me in the comments. If you found your next tool in this video, then don't forget to give me a like and subscribe for more electronics videos to come. Stay creative and I will see you next time.